Hello everybody, welcome to episode 101 of Driftless Knitting. This is a knitting podcast and a crafty podcast in general. Sometimes I do other things besides knitting. I am a spinner. I don't spin very often, but sometimes I do break that out and do some spinning. And I've also been dabbling in cross stitch recently. So I will show a little bit of that as well during kind of my works. Well, I might do all of the finished projects, works in progress of knitting, and then move on to the cross stitch. But yes, it is, I don't even know what day it is, October 19th. It's a Monday, and it is a chilly gray day. I'm drinking a cup of coffee in one of this is a Debbie Bliss mug. Not sure if they sell these anymore, but this was something I got from my best friend Caitlin. And yeah, I love it. If you're in the area that I'm in, I didn't even tell you where I'm coming from. Can you tell I haven't done this in a while? I'm coming to you from outside Madison, Wisconsin. I live here with my husband and our new baby boy. I will get into that a little bit later because I know there are some of you who are interested in a very condensed version of what has happened over the last month and a half. So I will touch on that in a little bit. But if you're in this area and you are familiar with Nina's department store in Spring Green, for those of you who are in this area, you know that that's one of the shops that is on the Madison Shop Hop. She has these mugs. I was just there the other day with my mom and my stepdad. We took a little outing because I don't get out much these days, and we took a little outing and visited a couple little stores in Spring Green. It's a really cute town. They have a great bookstore, and Nina's is there on that same street. And yeah, we just did a very safe way of visiting a couple little businesses. When was that? Saturday. So anyway, yeah, so I just saw these. So if you're in the area and you want one of these, they're at Nina's. So yes, it's been about a month and a half since I've podcasted, and I have a very good reason for being gone that long. For those of you who have watched previous episodes, you know that I was, when I filmed episode 100, I was very pregnant with my first baby. And I can't remember what day filmed that on. I think it was like one of the first days in September, but just a few days later I went into labor, and I actually went into labor on Labor Day, which is kind of hilarious. My water broke at 1:30 a.m. on Monday the 7th of September and woke me up. It's a very strange feeling. I won't get into details, but, and yeah, and then I waited, my contractions hadn't started, so I waited around. My husband was at his parents' farm. I eventually called him a few hours later just to let him know what was going on. I knew from everything that we had read that there was no danger of me giving birth very soon after that happened because I wasn't even having contractions yet. So I tried to get a little more sleep. I wasn't very successful. And then my husband came home, and we waited throughout most of the day on the 7th until my contractions got stronger. And we went into the hospital around 4 o'clock in the afternoon on on the 7th. And here I was thinking that we'd get into the hospital and it'd be a few more hours, and maybe by early morning on the 8th or you know, late that night on the 7th, we'd have our baby. That was not the case. When we got in, even though I was having strong contractions, I was only 2 centimeters dilated, and we had a long time to wait. Things got really intense. I was having primarily back labor, and it was very, very strong contractions for so my contractions started getting to the point where they want you to come to the hospital at about 2 o'clock on the 7th. We waited another hour, 2 hours, until the timing was right. They tell you to wait a certain amount of time, and we went in there. So between 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that whole rest of the night and into the next morning, I was laboring pretty hard, but I wasn't progressing very much. So after about 12 hours of strong laboring contractions, they checked me, and I was still only 5 centimeters dilated, which was very disheartening. I had been hoping to have a natural birth. So that whole entire time I labored without medication, and it was very, very painful, very difficult. At that point, at about 3 o'clock in the morning on the 8th, my husband and I talked, and we both agreed that I was getting too burnt out. I hadn't progressed far enough, and I needed to get some relief. So I opted for an epidural, and that came at about, like I said, 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. on the 8th, and it was amazing. I slept, I relaxed, it was amazing. If you can hear little grunting noises, that's because our little guy is in his swing right in front of me, so apologies for that. But anyway, so opted for the epidural. I slept, my body just relaxed. It was the best feeling in the entire world. They were all telling me, like, you know, we don't want you to feel guilty for getting the epidural after all this time. Like, make sure it's the thing you want to do. I don't regret it for a millisecond. It was the right choice, because by the time my body was ready and I had progressed and dilated enough, it was already about 10 o'clock in the morning. So I would have been laboring all that time. It was just insane. So by this point, we've gone longer than 24 hours since my water broke. And at about 10:30, I was ready to start pushing. So I pushed for about 2 hours, and our little guy came into the world at 12:41 p.m. on September 8th. I did have a little bit of a complication because it had been so long since my water broke. I did develop an infection and had to be put on antibiotics. He did not get the infection though, thank goodness. If he had, they would have just obviously given him some antibiotics and it would have been fine. But he was fine, and I eventually, you know, I was fine as well. But they did have to treat me for that. While I was pushing, they were monitoring my heartbeat and my temperature started to spike. My heartbeat as well was starting to race a little bit too much for their liking, and so thankfully I didn't push too long. The average amount of time is between 2 and 4 hours for first-time mothers, so I just reached that 2-hour point, and but if it would have gone on a little bit longer, I think they would have had to intervene a little more, which I'm really glad they didn't have to do. So anyway, long story short, Hudson Joseph Rentog, which is our son's name, came into the world, and it's been it's been 6 weeks almost. It'll be 6 weeks tomorrow that he was born. And yeah, so it's been a roller coaster. It's been good. It's been tough and challenging. I spoke about this a little bit on my Instagram. the transitioning from being pregnant to being a mom, those first few weeks was really difficult, just because of a lot of things. So lack of sleep, you're trying to figure everything out, and then you have the hormonal shifts. I underestimated that, I have to admit. I didn't have too big of mood swings while I was pregnant, so I didn't really think that it would affect me, and that was naive of me. And I think it's really important to talk about this because there are so many people like me and people who develop postpartum depression. I did not have postpartum depression, but I did have what they call the baby blues, which is basically in my opinion, it's a mild form of depression and anxiety that comes with, you know, your hormones are changing so much. When you're pregnant, you have very elevated levels of all of these hormones, and then in a minute, they're gone. Your placenta is producing all of these hormones, and then once you pass that, you kind of crash a little bit, and it can really, really mess with your mind. I felt like there was a dark cloud hanging over me. I felt I would just start randomly crying. I felt like I was mourning the loss of my life, my previous life in a way, because as much as we planned for this little guy and wanted this little guy, and how even though he is so loved, everything changes. And we've gotten to a routine and we've gotten to the swing of things, and thankfully now I would say after the first 3 weeks, my mental state really cleared up and went back to kind of normal, which is a wonderful feeling. It's like the sun coming out again, and you know, the amount of, you know, love, like I said, that we have for our son is just astronomical. But it is so normal, and I want everyone to know, and some of you, I won't say most of you, a lot of you probably have experienced this as well, and experienced even more than I have. But yeah, it totally took me off guard, even though they tell you and they talk about it and they let you know in the hospital, like, keep an eye out for these symptoms and everything. You still don't really realize that, you know, it's gonna affect you in that way. So don't worry if you are a new mom, if you're going to be a mom, if you have been a mom. Yeah, it's totally normal, and it's okay to feel really, really down those first, you know, few weeks and everything. And if you're experiencing more than that, I mean, definitely, obviously get help and talk to someone. It's just really important to reduce the stigma of, you know, postpartum depression and baby blues. So anyway, that's my story. But yeah, so Hudson is doing well. He's gonna be 6 weeks old, like I said. He is in his swing right now. So yeah, if there are some noises coming from a little, you know, from the background, you know what that is. I'm hoping to get most of this filmed before he wakes up, but I've already talked for about almost 15 minutes and I haven't even gotten to the knitting. So anyway, let us move on. I just also want to say thank you so much to everybody who reached out and commented on the last podcast, wishing us luck and wishing us happiness. Thank you to everyone who follows me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Driftless Knitter, by the way, and gave us congratulations. The post, when I posted that he was born, I mean, it had the most likes and the most comments I think I've ever had on an Instagram post, which is understandable. But it was so fun to read through everything and just see everybody's comments, and really made us feel very loved and very supported. So thank you so much. Yeah, I love this little community. It's wonderful. So knitting, I have been able to do a little bit of knitting over the last 6 weeks. or I guess more than 6 weeks, since my last episode was a few days before he was born. But obviously not as much as I normally would during a month and a half's lapse of time. But it's been okay. Those first couple weeks, you know, everything was so new. I was getting into just the group, just figuring out how to do everything. And he was a little more needy. He's still pretty needy. He's only 6 weeks old, but he was a little more needy. So I wasn't really able to get much done at all. But over the last couple weeks, things have kind of settled, and I'm definitely able to pick up my knitting a little bit more. Just put that over there. So the first thing I'm going to show you is in my Twisted Threads bag. I don't know if, oh, who is this from? Is this from Stacy? I can't remember. This was a fiber share, or not fiber share. This was a Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted gift. She gifted me some hand-dyed yarn and then included this project bag. And it's my favorite fall project bag to use. It's really my only fall project bag, and I look forward to breaking this out every single year. I've had it for a couple years now, and I always like to put I like doing like themed socks or themed projects for the season, and so I always put my fall, my autumn sock project in here when I'm working on it. So I did show this to you last time, but this is a pair of socks that I'm knitting on the Hagrid's Pumpkin Patch colorway by Bumblebee Acres Farm. And this was my first autumn pair of socks that I cast on, and I was designing a sock pattern with it. So I did finish the first sock, and I don't know if I had finished that already. Boy, my yarn is a little tangled up here. That's okay. I can't remember when I finished the first sock, but I finished this one, and then I set it aside, and I wanted to start a cast on a pair in another yarn that I was planning on designing 2 different pairs of socks. So I wanted to get the first one done of each of them, and I'll show you those in a little bit. But then just recently, I think just this week, Thursday maybe, I cast on the second sock. So I don't have too much started yet, just the toe. I have a Progress Keeper from the Gnome Knitter on there. That is a pumpkin scone. So perfect for fall time. And I do knit these toe up on Magic Loop. I'm using a Addy US 1 needle, and I do mine on a 40-inch. You can also do it on a 32. I just always did it on a 40-inch, so I've just kept doing that. Nope, somebody's eyes are opening. So this is, I think I just finished increasing for the toe. So this is the amount of stitches that I'm gonna have on my needle. I do a 56 stitch sock for myself. I have very small feet, and I like my socks to be pretty tight. I want negative ease on my socks, because the looser they are on your foot, the faster that they're gonna wear out. But if they're nice and kind of stretched out and tight on your foot, not only are they more comfortable, in my opinion, I do not want saggy socks, but surprisingly, they don't wear out as fast. So, and that just has to do with like friction and yeah. Anyway, I'm like kind of trying to now not rush, but just like talk a little faster and not ramble as much as I'm rambling right now. So anyway, so yes, I'm going to start the patterning on the top of the foot soon. This sock is a little bit more, it's not quite mindless, so I just need to be in the right spot. I need to remind myself of the pattern because I did finish these a while ago, And I have the pattern written out. It's on my computer. It's almost ready to go. But yeah, I just need to kind of get that pattern back in my head. So I am going to show these to you now. I worked on the pattern a little bit yesterday. No, a little bit on Saturday, and got up to the heel written out, and then now it's just finishing up the sorry, I'm watching. His eyes keep opening and then slowly closing again. And he's kind of wiggling around over there, so I'm just waiting. But yeah, so I've written through the heel. I just have to write the leg portion of it, which is fairly simple, since the directions are pretty much the same as they were on the foot when it comes to like the patterning. So that won't be too hard. But I don't want to commit myself to publishing this at a certain date yet. I was gonna look at the calendar and see. I want to think that I could get it done by the end of this week if I just make some time when my husband gets home, or you know, when Hudson is sleeping, to finish up the little bit that I need to do. And that's basically writing a little intro, taking photos, and finishing up the leg instructions. So these are, the name as well is not quite set in stone. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Pumpkin Farm socks. And let me show you the sock and then explain why I'm calling them the Pumpkin Farm socks. And it does have to do a little bit with the colorway, but then also with the design on them. So here it is. So it's got a fun cable along. It's got that that cable repeats twice. So let me just open this up here. Man, he is just talking over there. So this is what the kind of the front looks like. It's a really, really cool cable, really fun to do. And then I did a 3x2, I think. I don't know if you could hear that. Oh goodness, yeah, he's pretty noisy over there. So I think, yes, I think it's a 3x2 rib. I have to look at my notes on the back of the leg because I really liked the look of that. And then that carried over to the top. I did add, so I usually, when I get to a certain point in my leg for my own socks personally, I add a stitch or two because my calves kind of widen out and I don't want the cuff to be tight. So you can see I did, this sort of widens out here on the sides. So it looks a little funny. But in the pattern, I say you can do that. I think I put that in most of my patterns, that if you do have a wider calf and you don't want the cuff to be super snug on your leg, you can add stitches as you go up, but it won't be really written into the pattern. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, and the reason why I called them the Pumpkin Farm is because this right here, this is one repeat. So from here up to this little twisted stitch. Oh no, hold on one second. Okay, we're back. That only took an hour. We had to have a little bit of a snack. And now he is, I'm gonna just rock a little bit. He is on my lap, having been rocked to sleep a little bit. But anyway, I was talking to you. I won't be moving this whole time, I promise, but he was just getting a little restless. So I was talking to you about this awesome pattern, cable pattern, that is on my new sock pattern. And so this is the repeat from this beginning part up until this twisted stitch up here. And it's meant to look like a pumpkin. So the kind of the roots or the vine, and then the pumpkin there, and then the stem. So that travels up the sock. It also just looks like a cool cable for any other time of the year. But I thought it was kind of fun to have these be my autumn pumpkin socks. So that is I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go with, like I said, with the Pumpkin Farm socks. And I won't have the second sock done probably by the time I put these out, because I want to get it published before the end of fall. But I will be able to kind of test the pattern again before, so I'll probably start knitting on these today if I have a little bit of time, or later on this week I'll get the pattern completely done, and then knit the cable pattern a little bit using the written pattern just to test it out, make sure that I wrote everything correctly, and then maybe get these published by this Friday or this weekend. Maybe that would be amazing. I will update my Instagram though and let you guys know, when I publish that. So follow me on there, follow me on Instagram. And I usually do a discount for the first weekend or something, or the first few days that it's published. So keep your eye out on that if you are interested in knitting these socks, and yeah, you could get it for a discount when I release it. So yeah, like I said, I do get a little bit of downtime here and there. It all depends on the day, but I'm really hoping that because I don't have too much left to go on it, that I can get these done by the end of the week. So that is that sock. And then the next pair, I talked about these. I think I showed off the yarn I was gonna knit them in, but I have since finished the pair. Not just the one, I finished the pair. So after I was done with the first Pumpkin Farm sock, I cast these socks on and knit the first one. It was way more mindless than the Pumpkin Farm, and I cast the second one on and just went with it. So the first sock, I was almost done with it when I went into labor and had him. I just had to do the last couple repeats and the ribbing of the cuff to do. So I finished that within the first couple weeks of him being born, because it was just an easy thing I could do when we were in the car on the way to pediatrician appointments, and on the way to Seaver's parents' house. We visited them a couple of times. So it was simple enough to do. I didn't have to think about it. And then when I finished that first one, because it was so mindless, I just cast on the second one right away. And went with that, and then those went quicker than I thought. I really focused on them a couple of the times that I got a good chunk of knitting time in, and while he was sleeping or while Seaver had him, and I finished them in no time, really. So these are knit out of, the tag is over there, and I don't know if I can reach it. Let me make sure I have him on my my boppy pillow, my nursing pillow, which sort of cradles his head, and then his body can sort of fit into it. So he won't roll off my lap if I lean over, but still I don't want to squish him in there. So let's see if I can just, there we go. Okay. I also don't want to wake him up. So this is an old skein, not old skein. I would say this is 2 years. Yes, this is 2 years old. This is a Yarn Cafe Creations skein. There's her label. This is Christy. I think her labels are a little bit different now. Like I said, this is a couple years old. I got this when Christy had a trunk show with us at Knit Circus, and she's done 2 trunk shows, one last fall and then one the fall before that. And she does some really great, last year especially, I think her autumn colors were out of this world outstanding. I caved and bought 6 skeins, which is ridiculous. When it was here, maybe more than that. I think more than that. I bought more than that. While it was here, I probably bought about 8 skeins. She just had some beautiful colors, and yeah, I couldn't help myself. They were just incredible. So this one is one that I got not in that trunk show, but the trunk show before. It's called Orchard. I do know that she has dyed Orchard since then, although I think it looks a little bit different. Like is the case with a lot of indie dyers when they replicate and re-dye their colorways. Sometimes they look different amounts of dye, they change it up a little bit, change the recipe. So it might look a little different than what she has in her shop or what she had in her shop this year. I did not check to see if she had any Orchard left in her shop, but I did see it on her Instagram fall of 2020 or late summer of 2020. So anyway, Yarn Cafe Creations, Orchard. This is on her biscotti sock, and it's an 80/20. Oh, 85/15. Ooh, 85/15. That's why it's so soft. I knew that. I knew that it was a high merino count, but I forgot exactly how high. So there's Orchard, and these are, I'm trying to think of the best way to show them off. I don't have them on my sock blockers. I knit these a little bit longer than what I normally knit for myself, because I am planning on giving these to my sister for Christmas. And I know my sister doesn't usually have time to watch. She has a 4-year-old and a full-time job that she's trying to do at home while her 4-year-old is home as well, and doing preschool from home. So I know she's very busy and she doesn't always have time to watch. So I feel comfortable saying that these are for her. And this just has a really lovely texture pattern on there. So I'll just show, so you can see this speckle color is on an undyed cream base, and it's just got like blues and purples, orange, green, just some really pretty colors. So there you can see the texture a little bit. It's almost like blocks of seed stitch. And I kind of modeled these. The idea behind these was, or I should say the inspiration behind these was like a garden patch, so, or a garden bed. So did I knit these like different lengths here? Oh no, they're just about the same length. I don't knit mine 2 at a time, which would help me not knowing whether or not they are the same length. I did measure them, but I don't like knitting my socks 2 at a time. I know that's a really controversial thing, because most people, like, that's the thing that they aspire to. Like, if you knit toe-up socks, then you knit 2 at a time toe-up socks, and it's supposed to be more efficient. It's supposed to be easier and faster and make you, for me, I don't like how I have to pay attention. I have to untangle the yarn. I don't often get second sock syndrome. I cast them on pretty quickly after the other one. It's very unusual for me to knit one sock and then wait to cast on the second one, like I did for the Pumpkin Farm socks. So usually I just cast them on and go, and I enjoy knitting socks so much that I don't really mind knitting the second one. I don't know. I'm kind of weird, I guess, because of that, but I know a lot of people who don't knit 2 at a time. And some people who that's the only way they'll get done with a pair of socks, and that's okay too. But yeah, people always tell me, or when they find out that I'm knitting like 1 at a time, they're like, oh, you should really try, you should really learn how to do it. I'm like, I know how to do it. I teach classes on how to do it. I have knit them before 2 at a time, but I just prefer 1 at a time. That's just me. So anyway, so yeah, like I said, these were inspired by sort of like a garden and the different plots that you would have in a garden. And there's some like stitches in between the different like squares here. Don't know how well you can see that. And obviously I can't get super close. That's pretty close to the camera. Hopefully you can see that. But it has some sections of stockinette that sort of crisscross across these seed stitch squares. And that just made me think of within a garden, how you have sometimes like different areas that you've planted, and then, you know, like the walking paths through the garden. So not these ones. So the pumpkin farm, I was pretty set on that name. I'm 99.9% sure I'm going with that. These were a little bit different. At first I was thinking like garden patch or garden harvest or something. I don't know. I still have to come up with something that I like. I don't know, that I like a lot. I feel like I did think of something the other night and now I can't recall it. It's one of those things like when you're lying in bed and you're like, oh, that would be perfect. And then I didn't write it down. Now I forget. So, yeah, they'll be easy to name once I actually sit down and think about it. But they don't have an official name yet. I haven't written up the instructions for these, though it's even simpler than the pumpkin farm because there isn't like a chart. Like, you know, I had to write out and make the cable charts for pumpkin farm socks, but these, it's just pretty much, I don't know, because it's just seed stitch and stockinette and just a, you know, a certain number of stitches that you're doing both. I feel like I don't necessarily have to make a chart for that. It's very simple. So it will be easy to write that up is basically what I'm saying. I forgot to talk about the heel that I did for both of these. So this heel is actually, you guys are very familiar with the fact that I love a fish lips kiss heel. I do that on most of the patterns I've released before this, and on pretty much all of my personal socks, I knit the fish lips kiss heel. But I wanted to do a heel on these that I could actually put into the pattern, because usually I refer back to fish lips kiss pattern and say, you know, to do this heel that I did in the sample sock, you have to go by and read and figure out this other pattern, or put in the sock of your, or the heel of your choice. You know, it doesn't really matter. You can, if you have your favorite heel, you can just insert it. But I did want to put in instructions for a heel for people who don't really feel like going and having to find and print out and read another pattern, even though it is fairly simple. So I did a German short row heel on these, and the way that the German short row heel is done is very similar to the construction of a fish lips kiss heel. There's just not many ways to do like a short row heel like this. It's fairly standard. What I'm learning is that the difference between the fish lips kiss heel and the German short row is the way that you do the turning and the way that you reorient your yarn during the short row to go back, you know, knit back and forth. So because when I looked up various examples of the German short row heel, they were all pretty much done the same way. So anyway, I have taken that and kind of put in my own stitch counts, and then used the orientation, the way you reorient the yarn in this heel, if that makes any sense at all. So anyway, that is that. and I'm thinking I'm gonna like it pretty much just the same as the Fish Lips Kiss. I don't know if I'll continue to do the Fish Lips Kiss heel on socks that are not, you know, patterns of mine. I probably will, because it's just so, I can just do it in my sleep almost. But I did enjoy doing the German short row heel on these. It was nice to sort of have something different to do and think about. So yeah, so keep your eye out for these as well. Hopefully by the end of October, I can publish these. I want to get the Pumpkin Farm socks done first, because not only am I almost done with the pattern, but then it's a little bit more timely. Whereas, you know, these, I feel like I can release them almost whenever. It doesn't, you know, this doesn't look, even though it was part of her autumn collection a couple years ago, it's not super autumnal. The colors are just fun and speckly, and yeah. So anyway, these were also done toe up on Magic Loop, size 1, which is my preferred needle size. Okay, so that's those. And we're kind of all over the place a little bit right now. I did kind of works in progress and finished objects together. I have one more work in progress that I can talk about, and then some acquisitions, as well as my cross stitch. And I actually think I have a couple squares to show you on my cozy memory blanket. So this project is being housed in this super fun bag. This was done by a local crafter. Oh gosh, it's tingly. So I got this bag. We used to carry these bags at Knit Circus. Unfortunately, the man who made them, the brand is Papa Sews Too. The man who made them has passed away. He passed away a couple of years ago. He was a good friend of a lot of the Knit Circus employees, and he was one of the, he was like the manager of the yarn shop in Verona, Wisconsin, which is not that far away. The Sow's Ear. He was the manager there, and yeah, it was pretty devastating when he passed away. He had pneumonia, I believe, and had some really awful complications. But anyway, so I am very happy that I have one of his bags. They are really, really cute, and I know so many people loved them and loved him, and yeah, I just think about, I didn't know him that well. I had only met him a couple of times, but I do think about him every time I use this bag. So, and it's just got some fun animals. It's almost like a farm bag. It's got some chickens and roosters and dogs and cats, but it's sort of like, I don't know, like an updated sort of whimsical version of a farm fabric. So I really like that. But in here, I have this project. I can't remember if I showed this off. I cast this on and put it in my hospital bag. Why I couldn't get that word out. Put it in my hospital bag right away, because this was going to be my hospital. I can't say the word hospital. My hospital knitting while I was there for the baby. I actually didn't touch my knitting because I waited so long to get the epidural, and then afterwards there was a couple of moments where I could have knit when we were just staying in the hospital after, excuse me, new mom, I'm very tired. Anyway, after he was born, there was a couple moments where I could have been knitting, but I opted to nap, which is probably a good thing. But anyway, so yes, so I didn't really do any knitting while I was there. I think I did some knitting on the way home though, but I did bring, so the other thing I brought these socks because I had been working on them up until he was born, and then the day I was in labor, on the 7th. I worked on them while I was waiting here at home to go to the hospital. So anyway, this one didn't really get knit on until I got home. But it has been really great because it's so mindless and I love the yarn. It's just awesome. So this is the Magic Cake Cowl by Sam Troya, or Sam B. She's known on their social media. It's of Bumblebee Acres yarn, or Bumblebee Acres Farm. I thought I had the tag in here. Oh no, of course I don't. This is a very old cake. I mean, this was like one of my first Bumblebee Acres yarns that I got in like 2015. So it's quite deep stash. And I just realized that this podcast itself is very Bumblebee heavy, which is great. But yeah, my Pumpkin Farm socks is out of their yarn. I hope I said that in the first half of this episode. And now my Magic Cake Cowl is out of their I'll Await Your Owl, that could be a tongue twister, colorway. And this is on their Coquette sock base, which is a Corriedale, I'm pretty sure it's a Corriedale and nylon blend. It's a little more woolly than like a merino nylon. And this, I forgot to say that the base that I did the Pumpkin Farm socks on is their squishy sock base, which is 75-25 merino and nylon. So yeah, the Coquette sock base is a little more woolly, a little more rustic feeling, but it's still nice and soft. And this is, this is what I have so far. So it doesn't really look like much. You start off with a certain number of stitches and you knit that, and then you start increasing so that it becomes almost like a, kind of looks like a shawl wrapped around your neck. It's like it has a point in the front. I'm knitting mine on larger needles because I want it to be more like a poncho. So I started out with the same number of stitches, but on a much larger needle. I think a US size 6. And I'm knitting it just at a larger gauge so I can get it to, come down over my shoulders a little bit more. The pattern itself does come down kind of on your shoulders, but not to the extent that I want it to. So I want to either be able to bunch it up around my neck and just wear it like a cowl, or to be able to pull it down and have it be comfortable enough to be, on my arms and shoulders and stuff. So I am really enjoying knitting this. It's so mindless. All I have to do is pay attention to when I did the increases and then do them on the correct row. But I can just read my knitting. I don't have to pay attention. I can just say, oh, look, I increased the last row, so I don't have to increase this row. So yeah, it's been great. And this colorway is just gorgeous. It's got so many beautiful neutrals and browns, grays. It's a Harry Potter, if you didn't catch that, I didn't say. It's a Harry Potter themed colorway. They do so many beautiful fandom yarns, and not just Harry Potter, but they have Outlander, Lord of the Rings. They actually have a Schitt's Creek, if you watch Schitt's Creek. I've just started that series. I did just start it, but I've been watching quite a few. They're short episodes, and I watch them when I am up with Hudson at night, feeding him. So they go really fast. Depending on how fast he eats, I can watch 2 of them. They're about 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes long, and it's just such a cute show. It's so funny. And I'm really glad I'm watching that. So yeah, they have Schitt's Creek themed yarn, all sorts of different. Right now they have a bunch of Halloween yarn in their shop. So yeah, definitely go check them out. And I have a Progress Keeper on there as well. You can see that it's a apple cider donut, and that is also from the Gnome Knitter. So yeah, definitely super cute. I'm really, really loving this project. It's exactly what I have been needing the first few weeks of Hudson being here with us. So I'm getting close. I'm probably about 2/3 of the way done with the skein, and I'm just gonna knit until, you know, I don't have much left, and do the edging, the ribbing at the edge, and then bind off. So yeah, great mindless project for me right now. Let's see, should I talk about my cozy memory blanket? I hate to pull it off the back there because it is so beautiful and festive, and I know once I take it off the back of the couch, there's no way I can put it back up there, because this little guy is sitting on my lap. But yeah, it's okay if I take it off. So I'm pretty sure I did not talk about, at least about this one here at the, here sticking out here. Pretty sure the last time I showed this, I had finished my row and talked about how all of these in this row were from my 2019 Homespun House Advent calendar. And after that, I needed to, because I had gotten to the edge, I needed to start adding, you know, more here so that I could continue that, the Advent calendar minis that I have. This is the second project that I've been able to use my Advent calendar minis for, which is awesome. I have the Dust of Snow? Yeah. The Dust of Snow wrap by Helen Stewart that I did last December into January. And then I had enough left over that I could put a square of each of the yarns into my cozy memory blanket, which is awesome. But yeah, so I started this next row that I have to knit up, and this one is this is a Knit Circus colorway, and this is called Cottage by the Sea. It's a beautiful bluish gray, and this is on our trampoline base, which is 100% merino wool, fingering weight. Obviously my whole blanket is done in fingering weight, and I actually used this yarn to knit my wedding shawl out of, my wedding wrap. My colors for my wedding were this kind of dusty blue with pops of cream, and originally I was going to have baby pink along with this, like a very soft dusty pink, but we didn't actually really incorporate that into the wedding colors. So it was mostly just this and cream and some like more natural colors. So yeah, I knit that in there, and then I really have been wanting to knit on this. This would be also a very mindless project that I could do while, you know, sitting with the baby or just when I have a few minutes of downtime. But I have been focusing on getting my socks done. I think that's priority just because I do want to release those patterns. So once I get the socks done, I do have another skein of yarn to cast on another pair of socks because those are very portable. So when we're in the car or something, I do think that it's great to have a pair of socks on the needles. But yeah, once I get my projects done that I'm working on, I would love to put a few more squares into the cozy memory blanket. And because I've been showing off all of my Gnome Knitter Progress Keepers, this is also from the Gnome Knitter. That is a little square of honeycomb, and I got that quite a while ago. I actually got this and the pumpkin scone that's on the Pumpkin Farm socks. I got those two at the same time in the same order quite a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago. So yeah, let's see, I've got a couple more things to show you. I think I will show off my cross stitch really quick, because that is a work in progress technically. I had been working on this quite a bit up until the baby was born. And by up until the baby was born, I mean the night before I went into labor was the last time I worked on this. So I am doing I have this on a metal board I got from Joann's. And I don't want to show, oops, I shouldn't show too much of that. But I don't think you were able to really see much of the chart. Where is the actual picture? Oh, it's on the back of here. Okay, so I gotta take the magnets off. Okay. So I am cross-stitching the Autumn Harvest Girl. And this has been a goal of mine since I decided to get back into cross-stitch, which was probably about 3 years ago or so. And I am really excited with the progress I was able to make while I was waiting for, you know, while I was pregnant. Because I didn't start this until, gosh, I can't even remember. This past summer, for sure. I got back into cross stitch, finished a little, this is for those of you who haven't really watched, or forget. But I finished a little project that I had been working on for a while, and then was able to start this project, and I am really happy with how much I've gotten done. So there's the start. I started up here with the heart and the flowers, and then I slowly started making my way down the trellis and got some of the squirrel done and the deer. I'm really happy with how the deer looks. I think he's super cute. I haven't done any of the back stitching, which is when a lot of the detail of the squirrel is going to come out. The eye and stuff like that isn't actually stitched in with the cross stitches. It's done with back stitching, so that's why he doesn't really have a face yet. But the deer does, and I think he is just super cute. And the flower and all of that. So this is the last thing I worked on, the sunflower, before the baby was born. So yeah, so I'm really excited with that. I don't know exactly when I'm going to get back to doing cross stitching on a regular basis. It might be a little bit of time. This might have to just take a little break. But yeah, I was so enjoying, it was so relaxing. I fell back in love with cross stitch, and I can't wait to get this done. And then I have so many projects that I want to do on my wish list on 123 Stitch. I've been going on there and kind of saving, I mean, not recently, but before the baby was born, saving some projects and kits that I want to eventually get. So, and then on here, in case, I think I talked about this last time, but this is a needle minder by Simply Serving. It's a Harry Potter themed letter. So like the, it's got the H stamped on there. So it's kind of like the welcome, or what would you call it? The welcome letter? No, that doesn't seem like the right term. Like the school letter, kind of, that's what she based it off of. And so when I'm stitching, if I'm switching colors, or I just need to put my needle down for a second, I can just plop it on there. It's magnetic, and I don't have to worry about losing it in the couch or something like that. I don't keep the needle on there when it's in my bag because the magnet's not that strong that it would keep the needle from falling off if it's being like transported and stuff. So yeah, that's the story with that. And hopefully, there's my magazine. Hopefully I can get this worked on a little bit more, but I'm not going to push myself or, you know, worry too much about making a huge amount of progress on it in the foreseeable future. So let me just reposition this little guy who's on my lap here. You can hear his little grunts. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Little grunts, little toots. He's just the cutest thing. Okay. So moving on from cross stitch and all my works in progress, I am going to show a couple acquisitions. The first one is this cute little bundle of mini skeins. And this is super special because this is called the Bundle of Joy mini skeins. And these were sold as a pre-order from Knit Circus. Again, if you're a new viewer, I work for Knit Circus. I'm currently on maternity leave, but I work for Knit Circus in Madison, Wisconsin. We do hand-dyed yarn, and we have a shop. It's not open right now, but we do have a yarn shop. And basically, yeah, we do gradients, we do speckles, we do all sorts of different dye techniques. And I did a lot of the social media. I write the newsletter. I used to manage the store when it was open, but because of COVID, we haven't been open since like March. And yeah, right now I'm just on a maternity leave. I go back in a few weeks. So this pre-order was done as a sort of fundraiser to completely fund my maternity leave and my coworker's maternity leave. She had a baby girl in July, and then I had Hudson in September. We both got fully paid maternity leaves of about 8 weeks. So this was in part to fund that. So this is called the Bundle of Joy set. Obviously it's not available anymore. It was a very custom, or not custom, it was a very limited run. And yeah, just some really pretty pastel colors. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this. I really wanted it just, I love these colors. I think they're gorgeous. But I mostly wanted it as a sort of memento for my pregnancy and just, yeah, things that were going on around that time. So I'm really excited to work with them. Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but they have 20 grams, 92 yards per mini skein. There are 6 of them, I wanna say. Yes. Yep, 6 mini skeins. And it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. This is our Greatest of Ease base. And yeah, I'm really excited to do something with them. I'm wondering if this is enough yarn to do a habitation throw with. I've been really wanting to do a habitation throw, and I know it's quite a large like blanket, but if I don't know, if I did half, I don't think that it would, I'd have to like repeat the skeins, obviously, the colors, which I would be fine with. I just have to look up how many per, it's got like stripes. So I'd have to look up how many yards per like stripe they call for, or how many total yards, I guess, that she wants you to do. So that would kind of be a fun little blanket to knit and then have as a keepsake for, I don't know, that time in my life and my awesome job dyeing those up so that we could have our maternity leave. It seems kind of, I don't know, it might seem kind of weird for some people that we had to do like a fundraiser to get fully paid maternity leaves, but for a small business to offer me 8 weeks of fully paid time off, that's quite amazing. That's pretty cool. So yeah, we just had to kind of get a little boost of sales to make sure that we could cover the time that both my coworker and I were off work. So moving on to this next batch of yarn. I'm very excited about this. And I've had this sitting for the last few weeks, just sitting in my living room so I can look at it, and because it's so beautiful. But Bumblebee Acres had an update, an autumn themed update a few weeks ago. I would say it was, when did I purchase these? that is the baby, if you could hear that. Um, oh goodness, he's got some stuff going through, working through him. So I got these about 2 weeks or a week after coming home from the hospital. And I feel like I bought them, yeah, I purchased them. There's his little hand. Sorry. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. But anyway, I purchased these quite a few weeks before having the baby, but it was a pre-order, and so they came, they came like the first, I guess the second week of September after we got home. Anyway, sorry if I seem a little bit scattered. I'm quite hungry. I haven't eaten in a while, so that is affecting me a little bit. And I'm also sort of paying attention to what he's doing and making sure that he's okay down here. So he is a little bit distracting. So sorry if I seem a little bit scattered. But anyway, so I bought a couple of skeins, and then I was lucky enough to have them also send me one of these skeins because I am doing a pattern with their yarn, and I didn't actually get like official pattern support. So Sam said that if I wanted to pick something out, whether or not I wanted to do a new pattern with it, I could, or if I just wanted to work with it. It was kind of a replacement for the skein that I'm doing the pattern with, because I didn't ask for pattern support. So anyway, just wanted to be upfront and clear about that. But I originally picked out this gorgeous skein. This is called October Sky. It is on all three of these, yes, there are 3 skeins. All 3 of these are on their squishy sock base, which is 75/25 merino nylon. And they have 463 yards per skein. So this one I knew had to come home with me. Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. I can't wait to see how this knits up. I have seen some people work with it, it just popping up on Instagram in like socks and things. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with these yet, but I love the blue with just the pops of orange and red. I think that is just so pretty. And then this next one is called Campfire S'mores. And I loved the brown and the cream with that beautiful warm fiery red and this orange. This is kind of like a burnt orangey red. And then the speckles of like black in there as well. So again, this is on their squishy sock base. And then the third skein, this is the one that they sent to me. I had really, really loved this skein, this colorway when I saw it, but I, for some reason, didn't buy it. I was trying to limit myself. I could have bought actually every single one of their autumn colorways. I mean, they outdid themselves this year. But I did, when they kind of asked me what I would like them to send, I picked Red Barn in Autumn. I used their Red Barn in Winter colorway for my Christmas socks last year, and they kind of have a series of like Red Barn and they have like, what is it, Red Barn in Winter, they have Blue Barn in Winter, and now Red Barn in Autumn, and it's just so pretty. So it's got that like beautiful maroon red and the bright red that goes into the bright orange and yellow and just that pop of blue. So when these came, I had realized that I had actually picked out an amazing fade. I mean, look at that. So obviously this one, being the lightest, goes perfectly with Red Barn in Autumn because it has a little bit of that blue and a little bit of that orange and yellow. And then these like darker orangey colors go so well with I mean, that's pretty much the same thing right there. And then the brown, the dark brown in here kind of finishes it off. So I'm tempted to do a fade. I'm not sure what pattern, if I'll come up with a pattern or if I'll just do like a freer fade. I know that takes, I think, 3 colors, and that would be really fun to do, or if I'll just, I don't know, if I'll just knit socks with all of them. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I do think it would be kind of fun to do a bigger like shawl project with them and fade them one into the other. So yeah, so that is all of the knitting and the yarn that I have gotten over the last month and a half. I did do a little bit of damage this past weekend because it was the virtual Rhinebeck and Indie Untangled, and I did participate in both. I have to say that I didn't do as much with the virtual Rhinebeck. It was only a purchase price of $5 to like get into the website in the marketplace, which was worth it. I ended up buying something from Utopia, Yarns. Oh goodness. They had a special colorway available for the Rhinebeck weekend, and I did purchase that. I'll show that to you when it comes. It's gonna apparently ship like fairly soon. That's the nice thing about them being virtual, is that everyone is actually, I keep forgetting that everyone is actually at their homes or at their studios, and they can dye and ship things out much faster than if you were buying it and they were like on the road and then had to come back. I don't know. So I keep thinking of them being at these shows and then having to ship things out later on. But yeah, everyone is at their own homes and at their studios, so it will come much faster than I think it will. But and I think the one from Utopia was ready to ship anyway. She doesn't have to dye it. So I have one coming from her, and then I have yarn coming from a couple shops from Indie Untangled. And that show, I was so impressed by the way they did that show virtually. It was so much fun. I jumped on, oh, I have a low battery notification. Oh, get away from there. There we go. Okay. So I'll talk fairly quickly now. So I jumped on a couple of the virtual Zoom calls with some podcasters and some of the indie dyers. Every indie dyer had 2 slots where they did like an hour of talking about their products. One on Friday and then one on Saturday, I want to say. Maybe it was divided between Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But throughout the weekend, they had 2 slots that you could catch them. And I watched a couple of those. You could ask questions. And obviously, because it was Zoom, it wasn't like an Instagram Live or something, or a Facebook Live where you can only comment. You actually had if you chose to have your video up, you could, and you could just interact, face to face almost. That was the same with the podcasters. I hung out while Grace of Babel's Traveling Yarns did hers, and then while Mina Phillip of the Knitting Expat did hers that was on Friday, I think. And then on Saturday, Hey Brownberry, Marceline of Hey Brownberry was doing hers. So I jumped on that for the second half of it. And then all of the marketplace was done really well. You could go into their like virtual booth, and then from there they had like highlights, and then from there you could go to their website to do any purchasing. And I was able to just sort of like browse around. I did make a couple purchases that I'm really excited about. And yeah, it was a really fun event. If I would have had more time, I would have liked to have gone to some of the like designer. They had some designers that you could pay. I think those were a purchase. I don't think that was free, but they like broke down their, I don't know, just their design style. And I would have liked to participate in a couple of those, but I just didn't have the time with the baby. And then I actually had my parents come up on Saturday, so I wasn't able to do much on Saturday. except for in the late afternoon. So, but yeah, it was really fun, and I'm so glad I decided to do India Untangled. I at first was only going to do Rhinebeck, and then because I watched Grace's podcast, she was talking about the Zoom, meeting that she was going to be doing, and I was like, that'd be kind of fun to catch that. So I actually ended up doing more, like I said, with India Untangled than with Rhinebeck. So that being said, I hope that even if we're able to get together next year, fingers crossed, that we're all able to get together for shows next year. I do kind of hope that they keep a little bit of the virtual aspect, because for those of us who can't make it to Rhinebeck and India Untangled every year or ever, some people aren't able to travel due to health concerns, or just because it's out of their budget, or they're, very far away in other countries. We were all able to get together virtually, and it was just so much fun. So hopefully they keep an aspect of that, because I'm not sure the next time I'm going to be able to get to Rhinebeck. I would like to, maybe once or twice in the upcoming years, but who knows? So, oh my goodness, it's snowing. What? I just looked outside. I knew we were supposed to get drizzle today, rain, but it is actually snowing. Oh my gosh. It won't stick, and it's just the softest amount of snow. Like, it's just floating down. But yeah, there it is. Holy buckets. The first snow of the year here. That is so cool. I'm gonna have to make a cup of tea and light a candle. My coffee is long gone, by the way. I drank a little bit of it and then it got cold, and yeah. But yeah, I'll have to get cozy this afternoon. Yeah, he and I will have to get cozy. What a great time to knit a square on my cozy memory blanket. Oh, maybe I'll just take an hour and do that while he's still sleeping. That just seems like, it's such a indulgence. I might just do that. Anyway, so yeah, my weekend was so fun. I felt like I was able to connect with some fiber friends, even if it was from a distance. And I won a prize too. I forgot to say that on Grace's Zoom call. She did some prize giveaways, and I won a skein of her hand spun yarn, which is so exciting. So that's coming from Ireland, which is so cool. And it was great to chat with her a little bit. We've done a little bit of chatting in the past on Instagram and stuff, and it was great she used to do some lives, Instagram lives. My goodness, my brain. So it was kind of fun to actually be on a Zoom call and get to chat with her face to face. So anyway, that's about it. I can't wait for those fun things to come in the mail. Thank you all for watching. I know this got kind of long. I've already been talking the second part for about an hour. So I think that this is going to be like an hour and a half long. But I had a lot to say, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our, birth experience with Hudson, and, just thank you all for all the support and love that you've shown my family. It's just incredible, and I'm so glad I was able to take some time today and film a podcast. I've been wanting to for the last week or so, and finally just sat down and did it. So, and he's been pretty cooperative, besides that little hour interlude, but that's okay. That's, I can hit stop and I can hit record again. So, it'll work. Hopefully I can get another podcast episode filmed before my maternity leave is over. I have 3 more full weeks, including this week, left. So I'll be going back to work the beginning of November. I'll be working mostly from home again, and staying home with him. And then I have my mother-in-law is coming for a couple of the days to watch him, so that I can A, focus a little bit more on work, and then B, if I need to go into work, I can do that. So yeah, so we'll make it work. We'll see how everything goes down. We are living in some crazy times, but you know what? We can find a bright spot amidst all the shutdowns and the uncertainty of the climate right now. And you know, one of our bright spots definitely was this little guy coming into our lives. And yeah, we'll see what the upcoming weeks bring. One of the big things that's happening here in the US is our election. So I just want to say, if you are of voting age and you know you can get out and vote, and even if you can't leave your house to vote, there are mail-in ballots. Please take the time, register, make your voice heard. This election is probably the most important election we will have in my lifetime, or that this country has had. I mean, there have been historical elections in the past, but I feel like we have a lot at stake. A lot at stake. I don't even want to think about. Yeah. I don't talk politics, but I have to say that please vote and please think about the direction that you want this country to go. There is just our way of life, our democracy is being challenged right now by those in power. And it is really scary to think about what could happen if we let them continue to whittle away at what this country stands for. And that is, you know, that we are all created equal, that we all have rights and privileges, and, you know, it shouldn't matter what you look like, what your religion is, who you love, any of that. You are valuable and you matter, and you should have the same rights as everyone else. And there are people in power right now who don't think that that's the case. Vote. Please go and vote. And I'm gonna stop babbling here. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of the afternoon. I'm gonna hopefully do a little bit of knitting. I'm gonna go eat something because I can feel my blood sugar tanking. I get a little woozy when I don't eat, and a little like lightheaded, and I definitely need to put some food in my body. So I'm gonna go do that, and hopefully this little guy keeps sleeping for a little while so that I can get some knitting done. But anyway, oh, he just big stretch. My goodness. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for all the love and support, like I said, that you've shown us. And I'm just so grateful to be able to come back and podcast. Watch out for those new patterns. Follow me on Instagram at Driftless Knitter, and like and subscribe to the channel so that you can be sure that you're able to see the next podcast pop up. If you're a new viewer, thank you for clicking on this video. If you're a returning viewer, I love you so much, and I'm so glad you came back. And otherwise, yeah, have a great week. Keep doing things that make you happy. Stay positive. Reach out to people if you need to talk. It is mental health awareness, so trying to get that stigma of, you know, mental health, and we all go through things, even if it's temporary, like with my mental state after my baby was born, you know, experiencing a little bit of that baby blues, or low-grade depression. If you are going through postpartum depression, full-blown, if you're just going through anything, temporary or chronic, please talk to people. reach out for help, talk to your friends and family. It is okay. Go on medication, whatever you need to do to feel better. And then, try and do things that just make you feel good, whether that's crafting, reading, going for a walk, exercising, eating the ice cream. I just had a load of fudge before I started podcasting. It's okay to indulge sometimes. It just sometimes just makes you feel good. So anyway, I'm going to leave you here, and get this edited and uploaded, and I'm just so grateful for everything. So anyway, I'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna stop talking. Love you all. Have a great week. Bye. Okay, so I thought I would show you guys the snow since I talked about it. There it is, first snow of the year. Zoom in a little bit, can you see? You see it coming down? Like I said, just a nice light snow. It's not gonna accumulate. And as you can see, our grass is still green and everything. We've just started getting down into freezing temps, so. But there it is. Pretty exciting. This is probably one of the creepiest things. The old shot tunnel, oh my gosh. You can't even see, you can't see like that far into it at all.
Taking the side of this bluff.
It was hand dug. Look at that.
Different ships would come in and they would drop lead from the top and fall down the tunnel, and people would have to
grab it, bring it here.
Different ships would come in through here and they would load the lead onto the ships, and then this would connect to the Wisconsin River, and then from the Wisconsin River it would go to the Mississippi all the way down to St. Louis where it'd be sold.
Yep.
But this is a very old site.
You can see this is almost like a canal. This right here. And I am getting eaten alive by mosquitoes right now. So cool. Seaver's being brave. Do you have your, you have your flashlight on? I bet you can't get very far. They wouldn't leave this open.
See dead bodies in here.
Oh my god. He's like disappearing into the darkness. Oh my gosh. Super creepy. So we are at the Old Helena Cemetery outside of Spring Green. It's a really cool old cemetery, and we are just kind of looking around respectfully, looking at all of the gravestones, and it's kind of interesting to see what years. There are some very, very old stones out here from the mid 1800s. I think the oldest one was 1853 or something that we've seen when someone died. But we're just noticing, of course, that there are a lot of children's graves. And back in the day, of course, infant mortality rate was very high. But this one in particular sort of struck me. And of course, now that we have a son, it's even more so. But these are 3 children. This one wasn't even a year. And then we have another one. And so that was 1930. This one is 1933. Again, not even a year. And then this one, a daughter, was a year old. Born 1938, died 1939. Yeah, putting yourself into some of these people's positions, it really hits home. So anyway, I love kind of thinking about people's stories and trying to, trying to think of what their lives must have been like out here. This would have been the frontier, when a lot of these people were buried on this hill in the mid 1800s and the early 1900s. Still would have been pretty rustic out here, so it's pretty cool. And it just makes it all better with the leaves changing, and I don't know, perfect time to walk around a cemetery a little bit.